Okay.
3, 2, 1.
Let's go! I'm the host of the PBE podcast. We're at NAPE 2025, and we just wrapped up the podcast of the day for at least the PBE podcast. Thank you to the Oil and Gas Global Network for making this possible, because I got to sit down with Andrew Welshans, the man, the myth, the legend, future legend himself, as Skips would say. Introduce yourself real quick.
Long-time listener, first-time caller, happy to be here. You know, getting in with the network, trying out new things. I run a seismic and data interpretation company out of Boerne, Texas, consulting. Love to get in, mix in with geologists, engineers alike.
Man, I was so happy when you called me and you said, I'm a consultant now and I live in Boerne.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait a minute, we should definitely get a beer.
Yeah. I was so happy when you called me on the way to get my Mexican food for the family. Coming up with this prospect, man, this has been fun.
Yes, sir. Just getting started. And that's because we got DeWitt Smith. DeWitt Smith, sir. Thank you for allowing us to be a part of this story that you've been hunting.
Oh, you guys, like I say, I look smart because I surround myself with smart people, and you guys are brilliant, and I really appreciate the work you've done on this and faith in me. It was a little bit like, he's doing what? What? And then it was like, hey, this is really something big, and it is. It's people out there, this is a company maker.
Company maker, I like it. How do you introduce yourself, DeWitt, after... how many years in industry would you say? At least 25, 30? Where
Since,
we at?
77.
Since 77?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's 44 years, isn't it? Something like that. How do you introduce yourself? You're walking around NAPE right now. I want to hear the DeWitt Smith. Hey, DeWitt, what do you got going on?
Plenty.
That's good icebreaker.
Well, no, the deal is at this point in time, we're not ready to debut.
Right.
We have some more things to put together here on Eureka, but people listening out there, there are opportunities for investment. There's opportunities for operations, and it is a very unique opportunity, and it's an exciting opportunity. I've been in business for 44 years. This is no joke, the most exciting prospect I've ever been a part of. So, and I'm glad to have you guys on board with me, and we'll see who joins us.
Nice.
So out there in Podland.
Oh, Podland. I don't know if that's a thing. I'm a podcaster, man, and I don't know if it's Podland.
Yeah.
I don't know if I agree with it. No, I'm just kidding. You can call it what you want. It's definitely different, but it's a way to stay connected. It's a way to talk about what we're doing and make it a reality. The model that we use is just an approximation of reality. And we all have slightly different dials that make up that reality based on data and information.
Yeah.
What we're doing is just enhancing the dials towards the fracture networks, and that's how we honed in to the train wreck of the geology in this prospect. So that's been fascinating to just have that perspective and dial it in with that perspective in mind is a big deal.
If you've ever enjoyed structural geology, you need to take a look at this. This is something else. Yeah, it has been a dream to work on this with you guys.
But the other thing I would say is that in this century, I have put together and placed over 700,000 acres, including 90,000 acres of minerals. And it's always interesting. Somebody comes up, oh, so you're DeWitt Smith. I go, yeah, what's left of him? I'm 77 years old, but, I'm never going to get out of this industry. I'm having way too much fun.
3, 2, 1, let's go! I'm the host of the PBE podcast, Troy Tittlemeyer, sitting with my friend DeWitt and partner, and Andrew Welshans, friend and potential partner, because you're a consultant and you're doing your thing. Today's episode, we're sitting at NAPE 2025 because we have a prospect that we're talking about in this show, but the show's really about natural fractures. It's about turcotectonic structural geology cube and how you can map the rocks towards tension, towards the faults or towards the sags where tension has taken place geologically and hydrocarbons have migrated there and have been cooked properly so that we can make millions and millions of barrels of oil. DeWitt, The floor is yours. Let's hear what you have to say on natural fractures and how a career of chasing these elephants has been.
All right. Well, first of all, I've been in the oil business all my life, and I grew up in it. And I ran across a well about almost 25 years ago now in the San Juan Basin on a hogback. It's called Puerto Chiquito oil field. And I couldn't even believe what I was seeing. I saw a well, vertical well, drilled into shale that had made 3 million barrels of oil and was still, 50 years later, making 10,000 barrels a month.
Jeez.
And I went,
50 years later.
I've never seen a vertical well do anything like that. I certainly haven't seen one do it from shale.
Oh, yeah.
Tight shale, and I thought, okay, I need to look into this a little more. Well, we ended up, I had 11 geologists working on this problem, looking for a solution to what had happened. And it was pretty easy. We had 2 fracture systems that crossed over this field. By the way, the field made 23 million barrels of oil, and it's still producing.
Fracture system, you're saying, are the tectonic plates or tectonic events that are crossing each other. You can have a subducting plate this way, crossing old strike-slip faults that were already there in the Precambrian.
The Nacimiento fault system was running north-south and an extension of the Anadarko shear zone.
Oh, wow.
And it was a train wreck.
Yeah, it's the tip of the Elacogen, right?
Yes.
Kind of what's going on there. Okay.
So you've got about 2,000 feet of mancos. And then you have about 300 feet of Niobrara equivalent, brittle, all kinds of stuff. But the major thing is it's brittle. And so the plastic shales above and below heal and protect the reservoir. In fact, we've seen mancos produce from only 300 feet deep. Everybody goes, oh no, it's a fractured reservoir. There's going to be meteoric water. Like, no, it's not. It's protected. It's beautiful. And
Oreo cookie.
Huh?
Oreo cookie.
Yes. Okay. So we put together 600,000 acres over a period of time, and got that place. And when we got through, I had narrowed it down to 3 geologists out of the 11.
Hey, easy on the geologist. We can move. We're allowed to move boundaries, right?
Well, they were. It was. I had a stratigrapher, I had a structural geologist, and I had a geophysicist.
That's what you need, right there.
Yeah, that's it. And I found that not a whole lot of oil men pay much attention to structural geology. They'll run seismic, they see a fault, they describe the fault, and you go, well, how did it get there? And it's just a blank stare.
Yeah.
And that's very important when you're looking at natural fractures because, great, it's fractured, but if it's slammed shut, there's not any grease in it.
Exactly.
So it needs to be dilated. Well, my God, dilated. I came across wells that had dropped the tools in the hole 15 to 20 feet. Okay, I found wells that a mile and a half from a well that had just come online that had pressure drops a mile and a half away, in 24 hours. So I mean, this is just a conduit. It's just a pipeline, and people go, well, how deep was that? About 6,000 feet. Oh no, you can't have open fractures at 6,000 feet. The overburden will shut them down. We have all kinds of evidence that refutes that. We absolutely have open fractures, wide open fractures. And the interesting thing about this well, and the reason a lot of people miss these natural fractures is this well was drilled into the Niobrara equivalent zone
That's 80 million. What, do you know the age of the Niobrara? I was just thinking about that.
That's about, no.
75?
I'm not sure. I know when the fracture started, they started about 35 million years ago.
35 million is when the fracture started.
Yeah, and then became extensional.
That goes into the rift system.
And so the other amazing thing was that there was zero matrix porosity. And that's been confirmed by 3 of the operators out there. 2 of them, petroleum engineers, like, we looked at this, there is zero matrix porosity. So people go, oh, that's too tight. Well, yeah. But here's the thing, and here's what people don't think about. It's like when you artificially fracture a zone, right? You're creating the fracture, and then the oil comes into those fractures that you create.
That's the idea.
But if you're looking at natural fractures, and the fractures were dilated 35 million years ago, it may not feed into those fractures real time, but over 35 million years, it's had ample time. And those fractures, when you drill into them, are already filled with oil. So I told my guys, I said, hey, give me the same setup or close to the same setup in the Permian Basin, okay? And so that's why we're here today.
Yeah. It's interesting to think about this, because imagine 23 million barrels of oil. You know how big that is? That would fill this convention center for sure.
Well, the other thing is that not one of those wells flowed. The 3 million barrel well,
It was all pumped out.
Mm-hmm.
It was all pumped
out, and every one of them. What I was going to say earlier, though, let me get this way: they drilled into the Niobrara.
Okay.
They drilled in with air. They had drilled with mud and set pipe above it because it's got a lot of swelling clays in it, so you don't want to introduce water. Mm-hmm. I used to joke, you don't bring a canteen on location. So the deal is that they drilled in with air, okay? Mm-hmm. They had zero show. Now remember, this is a 3 million barrel well, okay? Zero show.
They had chromatography on the drill rig. They were looking for gas.
They're looking for everything, and there was nothing above background shale gas on the hot wire.
Wow. Okay.
And if this had been the first well they drilled in there, they'd have gone calf rope, we're out of here. There's nothing to see, right?
Yeah, where are we going to perf this?
But since they had almost accidentally drilled into an open fracture, and it was now an interior location, they knew that they were in a fracture zone.
Exactly.
So they went ahead and fracked it. And when they fracked it, they had unlimited fluid entry. They were casing swabbing 2,000 to 3,000 barrels of oil a day, and then put it on pump, and there you have it. So I got kind of excited about that. For the last 25 years, all I've done is look at natural fractures.
Yeah. Now, it makes sense. How do you get that much oil in place that's recoverable? There's got to be some story like that, right? It had to be dilated. It has to have some kind of porosity, permeability that naturally came in and filled those cracks with this fluid. Takes time, and then go into the current day rifting, and how that's playing strain games and stress games on the rock that's already previously been crashed twice.
Yeah.
Right?
All fractures are not created equal, right? Like, you've got to go after what's critically stressed, right?
Yep.
I mean, in those cases, it's going to release things, but pressure will build up within those systems, right? You've got the fractures that are there, and you start to fill that void space.
Yeah.
Now, when that void space fills up, then it's going to break again, right? And so you've got to kind of have the understanding of, like, what am I going after here, right? There's different types of fractures. There's ones that are going to give you a lot, and then there's ones that are just kind of sitting there. Differentiating the two, that's where the engineers are going to look.
Yeah. Now, the geologic model is going to tell us which direction the healed fractures are going to be in versus the dilated ones.
Exactly.
You can at least get there and start drilling there.
You want to drill perpendicular to those.
Absolutely. Don't go longitudinal.
Now, the other interesting thing that I found, and this is just fascinating to me, is that the oldest field west of the Mississippi is Florence Oil Field, which is just south of Canyon City, Colorado, on the Front Range.
Canyon City, Colorado. So this side, or you're saying the west side of the Rockies?
East side, Front Range.
So the Front Range of the Rockies.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So now, not only is it the oldest field west of the Mississippi, it's the second oldest producing area in the entire United States.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is where oil men get amnesia. because it was accidentally discovered in the Pierre Shale. That's it looks like Pierre, but okay, pronounced Pierre. And they were drilling for water. Okay, so they drill and they find oil. Yeah. What's this?
Jet clampet moment.
At 1,167 feet.
Jeez.
Right? That
Man,
field
you can almost dig
with
there.
worst practices, because it was derrick to derrick. They got, this gas, we'll blow that off. Who needs that? So they blew all the gas off. It was derrick to derrick, and they still made 15 million barrels of oil. And you can still drill into fractures that have virgin pressure.
Yes. Really?
And produce oil.
Really?
Yeah, so sounds like a pretty good setup for horizontal drilling, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, if you got it mapped out.
So here's the other thing. So it's shale. It's in a syncline, okay?
Yeah.
And they drill with cable tools, which is a lot easier to detect oil and natural fracture. Mm-hmm. So then along comes anticlinal theory, right? And they go after sandstones and limestones.
You don't go into the
and they start,
syncline.
hey, let's mud up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, almost all of the natural fractured reservoirs were found before 1935, and then again after 1955 with a resurgence of cable tool drilling and drilling with air. And so we have basically a negative or positive picture of what we're mainly looking for now. That was the second oldest field. Who's drilling synclines?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So we have a lot of featureless areas that we can drill that are prospective if you're only looking for bumps.
Yes.
Well, it's good to know that what's interesting, I think, from a technical standpoint is we really are targeting a form of a syncline in the big regional picture, right? Even if it's been uplifted, if a part of it is in a negative flower structure, that's essentially saying you're in some kind of a syncline. You're in where tension is and where basin type processes are going to happen. Mm-hmm. So a negative flower structure is technically a syncline target, I guess.
It's a graben that drops down.
Yep.
You know?
There we go. Come on. I love it. It's already set up. There we are. We're going here.
But that's the point of critical stress, right? Like, is it pressured up? Is it a system that you would go in and intercept horizontally, or is it more conventional?
So
where voids are there.
How much do you think the younger rocks, the salts and anhydrites, and even the Mesozoic stuff that's at surface, how much of that do you think has a role in pressure at depth? Do those rocks somehow help control pressure in the reservoir at 10,000 feet?
Well, everything's part of the overburden, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when you take a look at like how pressure releases, right, as things move, right, if you're going to extend something, that's kind of the thought that you rip it wide open, right? That's why if you take a look on like Google Maps today, you can see those Lamar faults that Hennings and those guys are mapping out, sitting there on satellite imagery, right? So you don't want to intercept things like that. However, there's going to be compartmentalization, where structurally speaking, within that system, things get pressured up.
Right.
And I don't know. I mean, it's just using all the data to kind of map those things out for yourself.
But that's another thing. We talk about pressure, and there's a lot of under-pressured reservoirs.
Right.
But all the fields I'm talking about now, the two fields, Puerto Chiquito and Florence, gravity drainage.
Yeah.
Great pressure, particularly when you blow the gas off. So it was just rolling down here at Florence. It was on a hogback, and it was girdled by non-fractured area. So it was like 78,000 acres girdled. So the oil just went downhill and stopped where the fractures.
Pressure
the best
moves high
wells
and
were
low.
down dip.
So that's an interesting take.
Yeah. And we studied we started, of course, at where the 3 million barrels was.
Right.
But then we looked all over the Rockies. What better lab is there for natural fractures than the Rocky Mountains, right? We went all the way up into Wyoming and looked at all these naturally Rangeley, discovered in 1900. Natural fractures, gravity draining. And it's just, in fact, you could, at Rangeley, you could follow the fractures in the intersections because they had calcite in them. Just walk along, oh, there's some calcite. Follow the fracture, look at it. I studied one well. There's a great study done by Bill Mallory at USGS. And, fractured reservoirs in the Rocky Mountains. And Bill was talking about a well that was a rotary drilled well at Rangeley, and they ran into a cavity, so they didn't know any better, and they filled it up with gunny sacks.
What's a gunny sack?
Huh?
What's a gunny sack?
It's like what they used to put sacks of potatoes, the ones you can
potato
see
raisins.
through that are
Okay, yeah.
okay. So they're putting gunny sacks down there and whatnot.
Jeez.
And they also put down willow branches that they cut around there.
Wow.
That were big around as your thumb and 6 inches long. It's like, hey, this nuisance zone, which is everybody's like, well, circulation, of course, is a great thing to look for when you're looking for natural fracture. Sometime later, somebody that was smarter drilled a cable tool well, and 175 feet away from that well that was drilled with rotary, they're like, we've got gunny sacks and willow branches. So these fractures, they're big. They can be very big, very wide, and lengthy.
Yeah, water's an immiscible fluid. I mean, you can see that show up miles away. I guess trees can move that way too. Interesting.
Let's talk about it from a seismic standpoint.
Okay.
Sound waves are being generated at surface in all kinds of frequencies, right? All kinds of wavelengths going into the earth. The longer ones, the wider ones go deeper and tell us the deeper story. The tighter ones are telling us the shorter story. That gets all reprocessed. But at the end of the day, when you have a rock that is very tight, right? Very tight, not much porosity, and then all of a sudden you have hallways of a fracture system through it that's got to be, maybe hundreds of feet of a crack and a wall of fluid. What happens to the sound wave when it hits that anomaly? What is that?
Oh, it just spreads out, right? I mean, look at the room we're sitting in here. If we're sitting around listening to people, we can actually hear the other conversations as we sit because there is this void space. However, we've got this blank wall behind us, right? Can't hear anything, right? So when you've got those fractures for that sound wave to pass through, it slows down tremendously.
You see it clear as day.
Exactly, right?
Wow.
It's like one of the best tools, at least at a large scale.
It's shooting fish in a barrel, man. You're humble. You're humble because you're a geophysicist, but that's why geophysicists get paid so much money.
Well,
you guys turn the maps and turn the data into shooting fish in a barrel.
I mean, all we really want to do as geophysicists, right, is bring your geologic model into our space to predict between the world.
Right, make sense of it.
Right? But not only that, I mean, we want to put it into terms that the engineers can understand.
Sure.
This many fractures, this PSI per foot, right? If you are here, you want to frack this way. If you're here, maybe we just want to do open hole completions, right? Putting all that data together, Rosetta Stoning it, you can speak the language of anybody.
That is freaking cool.
Yeah.
That's
fun.
cool, DeWitt.
It's very cool.
Cool.
Andrew is he's not a scientist, he's a magician. No, I swear. I had some 3D, as Andrew, both of you know.
Yeah.
And I asked Andrew to interpret it. And what he came up with was like, I knew this area was heavily fractured. Troy and I both knew. I had come in here.
We had an idea what directions things are kind of running into.
Right.
Yeah.
And then when you showed us what it was doing, it was so cool to see.
Oh, my God.
It was amazing.
He puts it up on the screen, and I'm like, I have never seen anything like this. I mean, it's like pickup sticks. We had stuff going, sideways, up, everything, chimneys, going down to God knows where, and I said to Andrew, I said, Andrew, I've never seen anything like this. I said, have you ever seen anything like it? I mean, that's what he does. He said, yeah, the North Sea. I'm like, the
Viking
North
Graben. Viking Graben.
Viking Graben. Yes.
So we already knew it was fractured. Now we know it's broken up to beat the band.
Yeah.
And we have,
cool.
6 or 7 different zones.
Sure. Yeah, the
And-
pay in the Permian is stacked. I mean, if you go not much further out, you can find all kinds of targets within targets that are developing. I mean,
We
it's
got
wild.
1.8 million barrels of oil that's produced from 800 feet.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah,
now
the
most of
wrestling,
these
the
people that are
freaking
drilling,
wrestling.
they're going, okay, we're going to the Devonian.
Yeah.
Right? It's like driving to L.A. Without stopping in Santa Fe and the Grand Canyon and, Sedona. Anyway, it's just like they put the blinders on. They may even not have a mud logger until they get to 5,000, 6,000 feet.
Right.
And they set surface casing through this zone. The reason this zone was discovered because, once again, they were drilling for water to drill a Devonian well.
Right.
Okay? And they discovered 1.8 million barrels of oil. So you got to have your eyes on as soon as you begin. Now, the way that you guys will speak to the geology and the geophysics, but when you're drilling, there's a number of things to look for, and oftentimes you'll be drilling through a huge fracture system, and you look at the mud log, it'll just say washout. Like, no. The formation is, and the logs are the calipers are trying to tell you something here.
Mm-hmm.
Pay attention. But most people are just like, in the past particular, it's like shale, So you go back through old stuff and you see this law of circulation. What we look for is bit torquing. See all, chatter, calipers off scale, as I've just spoken to, rotary mud drilling with, lost circulation. That's a biggie. But even with air drilling, and this is what nobody understands, including me, is that you drill with air and dusting ceases. It's like, wait a minute, I'm drilling with air. The air is going out and scaring the hell out of bats or something else. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
And it's like I'm dealing with air and there's not enough pressure to keep this back. So what's happening here? And I don't know, but Mallory was talking about it. USGS, you see dusting cease. That's lost circulation,
Right.
and a strong indicator. And then we have literally where we are mud log descriptions that are just where the mud logger goes cavernous, quote unquote. Sample descriptions. Sometimes you can see some fractures, and then gas flares and oil on pits when you're going through a tight zone.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good indicator of natural fracture.
Yeah, the log will even get stuck coming back up through it, right? It gets tight, it holds the log, and then you get cable stretch on your log.
That's telling you something. Yeah.
Nuisance zones.
That's a weird zone.
It drops. I mean, you name it.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about it from, I think, an inch, because we're at NAPE. This is NAPE 2025. When's the first time you came to NAPE? What year?
Over 20 years ago. Well, I was here twice a year for 10 years with a 3 booths. Usually got up in front here. They got to know me. And so long time. I've been to probably at least 25 days.
All right. So you got a prospect. This one says 100,000 barrels of oil a year. We're saying that this is analogous to 23 million barrels over 50 years. You have a prospect. Everyone understands that. How do you see it from being an oil man and your experience? What is the way you make business from that proprietary project that you control? How do you welcome in business?
I used to be an operator, okay, and I don't operate anymore. And the reason I don't operate now, I used to have a company, I had people working for me, and now, since I've moved all over the United States, different prospect, different areas, need different geologists, people with experience in the area that I'm in. and I put together a virtual company, which is what you guys are. You know, it's me. Petro Radio is me, and then whoever I hire to help me, whether it be a landman, no matter who.
Yeah.
And so I'm a prospector, which is what I like best, but I'm not a scientist. So I nail down an area based on my experience, and then I go to Troy and I go, kill it. Try to kill this thing.
Take
please.
this off
Put
my
me out of
wall.
my misery, you know? And then he turns it into something that looks better and better and better. And it's like, okay, let's do this, try this.
Mm-hmm.
No, that looks good too. Let's try this. And if it passes all of that, it's like, then we brought you in, Andrew. It's like, how can we improve this? And you improved it greatly. So since I don't operate anymore, I then go and look, as we are now, looking for an operator. Okay, we already have, as you guys know, a large portion of the money earmarked, and so now we're looking for we can either bring in and pay for an operator, although I'd like to see skin in the game with the operator. Operator come in for, let's say, 25%, and we're funding the other 75%, and off we go. So it's just that type of thing. We get some money up front for years of work and putting together information, and not much, but enough to cover our expenses and et cetera, and then keep an override or a working interest or whatever the prospect will bear, and go see if we're smart. In the instance where we are now, our proof of concept is unbelievably inexpensive, in that we have 2 wells that are fully cased. It's not even a re-entry, it's a recompletion of a well that has a wellhead on it. Okay, we have a Cadillac drill, we have all the entire suite of logs, more than most independents would dream of doing.
And the fractures are critically stressed.
The fractures are what?
Critically stressed, ready to go.
Absolutely. Oh, well, in one of the wells we had 795 feet of shows drilling with air. Okay, just flares and flares. But they were going to the Devonian. So you'd be looking through the mud log and you go, bluey pot out. It's like, for how long?
Yeah.
How many flares did we miss through that zone? But we have adequate. It's
I bet there's a lot of fun scout tickets out there too for this.
oh man, I can't even tell you how many scout tickets we got out there.
Yeah.
It's an interesting read.
Yeah.
That's usually can be sort of boring. This is not boring.
A lot of exclamation points,
But,
yeah.
but of course, we're south of I-10, and of course, everybody knows there's no oil south of I-10. We're in an area that everybody says is gassy. It's like, well, where is this 36 gravity oil coming from? USGS says we're in the oil window where we are. Yeah, there's some deeper wells that have produced fabulous amounts of gas, some of the best in Texas. But we're definitely in the oil window. These are going to be oil wells. We're going to make gas, but it's going to be very rich gas. 1,350, 1,400 BTU. And so even at these lower prices, we're going to be getting the equivalent of upward, somewhere close to $5. That's not fabulous, but better than a poke in the eye with a sharp stick.
You think right now an MCF from this area would generate $5 from the
Do I think what now?
pipeline? You think the gas in this area would be worth $5 an MCF?
More or less. Well, I didn't look at the gas prices this morning.
Yeah.
We'll be looking at gas. I think we're looking at $3.50 more or less right now. I didn't look today or this week even.
Let's call it $3.50. Yeah.
Call it $3.50. Well, you multiply that times 1.4, and
You do that because it's a rich gas.
Yeah, all the liquids, ethanes, propanes, every kind of thing in the world that they pull out of that.
So you have dry gas pipelines, right? You have dry gas pipelines and wet gas pipelines, and you have fluid pipelines.
Well,
right?
when they say, BTU, they're talking about 1,000 British thermal units. Well, so they say $3.50. That's for 1,000. We're 1,400. So okay, so we're richer than that, and so this gas is not just
it's not a sour
it's not
gas,
a
that's for
nuisance.
sure. Yeah, it's not a nuisance.
You know what?
It's concentrated.
I can't say that. I haven't seen. I have seen, and everybody has seen all over the Permian. It's just weird. You'll drill a well, and you'll get sour gas. You drill a well 40 acres away, sweet. So it's. I don't think we're going to have sour gas. None has been reported in our primary zone that we're looking at. Certainly on our prospect, which by the way is about 40,000 acres, a little more 40,000 acres. So I haven't seen any sour gas, but you never know when you're going to run into it. So, so shave your beard.
We'll have to work that into the model if we find it. Yeah.
Hey, how does a sound wave go through H2S? No, I'm just kidding.
Really?
Yeah, no, that's fun. It's amazing to
Just
think
hang
about.
a bird from the buoy line.
Canary in the coal mines. Yep.
Oh man, man, that's cool. Yeah, I think we could wrap this show up unless you guys want to chit chat about NAPE in any way or anything else. I mean,
NAPE is wonderful. They even had when we sold 114,000 acres, and we didn't really have a reason to come to NAPE. We just sold our prospect and didn't have another one. So they went, well, let's brag. so we put up. We had this large booth with giant sold sign and all that type of thing. And NAPE put us in the magazine, the big deal and all this type of thing. I love NAPE. It's a great place to see people you haven't seen in a long time,
Exactly.
to see what's going on, in the industry. And, it's a good time. Meet and greet.
yeah, I agree. You agree with that?
Learn new ideas, get out there, see some seismic lines.
Nice. Yeah, I had a breakthrough on seismic last night at a Landman event.
That's right.
And then a Landman told me that you could kind of tell how the industry's going by the parties and the level of gifts that you get.
That's right.
That you get. So
an
I got
awesome time, man.
I got a great time last night.
Yeah.
And they had a cigar rolling deal. I mean, it was really all out.
Flatland
Mardi Gras,
Cavalry.
something
Yeah,
like that.
that's what I
show.
wanted to talk
Good.
to NAPE about. I always got a briefcase here. Now they got some little cheesy tote bag. Come on, man. The industry's going good. We need some better gimmies.
We also roughly did the math on that. This event pulled in something about 1.6 million in attendee fees. 1.6 million. Maybe is what they made. So yeah, I would like a briefcase next time.
That's right. That's our only bitch, though.
Happy to be here. Going to pick up some stress balls for the kids. Thanks,
Nice.
guys.
Yes. Thank you. This is awesome.
Thank you, bub.
Always.
Andrew.
Always DeWitt.
All right.